we have someone very special here today to share their insights and journey. Before I introduce him, just wanted to say that building a successful brand, because we all are here because we are D2C founders. Most of us are brand builders here, and a lot of us are enablers to brands, service providers, technology, SaaS platforms, right? And we all are building a business, right? But building a business is not the only goal. Our bigger purpose here is to create an impact, right? And an impact which can happen at not just financial level, but an impact which is much bigger in terms of the economic, uplifting the economic strata of the country, right? And a successful brand is not just a brand which is able to scale or able to make profits, but a brand which is able to create a larger impact. And that is when the journey becomes more meaningful, right? What do you guys think? Isn't that true? We are all not here just to build a business or to make profits, but we are also here because entrepreneurship is the force multiplier. We all believe that we all can change the status quo and we can create impact, right? And that is the person we have here today, Mr. Yogesh Chaudhary, Director of Jaipur Rugs. I would like to welcome Yogesh. Welcome, Yogesh. Thanks for coming, Yogesh. Please have a seat. So guys, Yogesh is a leader who has taken a traditional craft and transformed it into a global respected brand right out of Jaipur Rugs. So I'm sure all of you know Jaipur Rugs, yeah, right? It is the pride of Rajasthan and Jaipur because it's a global brand built out of Jaipur, and it's really our privilege to have Yogesh here today, who is the second technician of the brand, and he's now currently the director of Jaipur Rugs and he leads the entire business. Jaipur Rugs has built a remarkable global presence while staying deeply rooted in craftsmanship, community and purpose. I think it's a very special brand because it takes something which is very well known, which India is very well known for, and converts it into a global brand while retaining the true core essence of the craftsmanship. Right? So Indian craftsmanship has so much of potential, guys, and I think the biggest opportunity for all of us here is to take our source of origin advantage and package it and market it globally. I think Jaipur Rug is one of the examples of that, of how to do that. And I think this session, this fireside chat which we are going to host with Yogesh, I think we should try and take out all the secret sauce of how Jaipur Rug was able to convert this opportunity into a global brand. And a truly global brand, including stores in London, for example. Right? So I think that's a really proud thing for India as a country, right? And I think when we started D2C Insider, one of our mission statements was that we want to make India a global brand nation. Why should we consume American brands? Why can't Indian brands become global? Right? I think that is something which is still work in progress. But I think there are few examples, which actually give us the confidence or give us the inspiration to really go after it. Because if you tell anyone today that India will produce global brands, there will be a lot of skepticism, right? Hey, India is not a brand country. Hey, we are traders. Hey, American brands know how to market themselves. But when there are some examples, to look at, I think that gives a lot of motivation to new founders who are coming in to be able to think bigger. And that's why we have Yogesh here today to share that journey and share that learning and give that inspiration to all of you. We'll start our fireside chat with Yogesh Chaudhary now. But a big round of applause to Yogesh Chaudhary. So welcome again, Yogesh. Thanks a lot for taking our time and effort, and pleasure to host you today.
I have the mic, but I just want to do one thing before we start starting. Guys, especially the people who are standing. Hi guys, everybody at the back. Everyone at the back who is speaking.
Guys, please come in.
Please come forward. Please take a seat. The problem is that because of the piche ka sound, people who are sitting, they're not able to hear. So the ones who are at the stage, their effort gets lost, and the ones who are trying to listen to, their effort gets lost. So let's all come together and have a great, insightful session. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Shavi. No, guys, I think this is very special. I think we have been doing events at Jaipur. This is our third or fourth event. But I've been trying to get Yogesh, and I think he agreed to come on a Saturday evening. And I think it was very important for us to get him because there are very few such examples, very honestly. We are seeing some early signs, from new age brands which are trying to go global. But this is like a classic example of a brand which has taken something which is so local, which is something so ours, and made it a global product, right? So I think it's very important for us to have this conversation, and I'm sure Yogesh will be very much open to sharing all the secret sauce, all the learnings. So look forward to it, and that's why I think it's so important for all of you, all of us to hear this, right, and take inspiration from it. So Yogesh, before we start, the first thing I would like you to speak about how Jaipur Rugs has been able to transform a traditional craftsmanship into a global luxury brand. What were the key decisions, or what was the core approach which helped Jaipur Rugs transform this? Taking a local product, a local skill set of our craftsmen, and transform it into a global brand. So what was the secret sauce, and what are the things which have worked, or why do you think Jaipur Rugs has been able to achieve this? There's a lot of local brands which have not been able to make it globally. So I think we'll start right from that, because that's the most important question for everyone.
First thing that.
Can you notice?
No,
Hi guys, thank you so much for having me here. Maybe I'll just give some context for people. I think a lot of you might not know my company. It's called Jaipur Rugs, and we make carpets. And a lot of people get confused between carpets and rugs. It's the same word. In America, which is our always biggest market, we call them rugs there. So our business is always B2B. We were making B2B carpets for the best carpet stores around the globe. I joined the business in 2006, and 2016 exactly, almost we getting close to 10 years, is when we started the D2C, the direct to consumer. So we started one store in Delhi, and I always had to believe that Indians are getting richer, and the product will sell. So we started the store. First 1 year was loss making, and the whole family was like, if we shut it down, we're going to burn all the money that the family is making. And at that time, it was about my ego. Okay, we started an initiative, and somehow I had to make it successful, right? So that's when I started seriously look at the business in terms of how we build a consumer brand. So let's say only 9 years ago was when the real journey started of building the brand.
Jaipur Rugs started long back as a B2B business.
Correct.
Sport range.
Correct. It was only
Even 6 you came in.
Correct.
And you actually started the D2C business?
2016.
16. Okay. So the brand is actually less than 10 years old.
Correct.
Like the
We'll finish 10 years in a few months. So when we started, obviously, I started to say that we want to target the rich, right? So we said, hey, India mein brands hi nahi hai. I think one thing I've learned is that we are so afraid of building brands, and I don't know why I was also really afraid when I was searching. I was a little courageous. So when we started to build, I said, remove anything that is cheap from the store. So if you walk into my Delhi store, in space carpet available was 2 lakh rupees, right? And we did that for 1 year, and the reason was not that I did not have cheaper carpets. He was constantly telling me, sir, please put the expensive carpet, the cheaper carpet, because we can sell. Most customers walk in and they walk out without a sale. But the idea was to put in everybody's head that Jaipur is very महंगा, right? But also what she did was I was talking to the team, and I was telling them, please sell, and they were like, hey, there is heat in India, there's a lot of dust. Because of rule, people don't want to buy carpets, right? So when we do strategy, and I always recommend everybody to do yearly strategy sessions on your business. So I said, okay, let's list down. Everybody tell me why somebody would not bring me a cup. So why somebody would not buy a carpet, right? And after everybody give all the negative terms, now tell me why somebody would buy a carpet, right? And then you start listing them down, and you see now you focus only on the positive and not the negatives, right? So suddenly you've eliminated a lot of burden in your head. And sometimes I can't tell you the power of just eliminating negativity from your head changes everything, because that empowers you to think what is possible, and what is stopping you from not going ahead, it is sort of removed. So with that thought, we started in India. I said I want to target the top 100 families in India. I want to sell to the Ambanis, the Bindas, the Tatas, that's all. And the team was like, we don't go any of these, and how do we sort of start approaching them? And we created a whole strategy of saying, okay, what are the places where, how can I make an Ambani, right? How can I meet a Birla? How can I meet these people? And how can I start selling to them? And we said, wherever they go, we want to be there, so that they meet them, right? Or we are in front of them. they'll use every connection, everything. So I was at a conference in Bombay where all the architects and other people come and he's randomly made a friend with somebody and I was telling him about the business. I was always pitching Jaipur Rugs, right, to people. And he's like, oh my god, this is such an interesting business. Do you want to collaborate with Gauri Khan? And I get the best because celebrities in India means direct access to a film community. So he said, why don't you think of it? I said, no, I have thought. I'm going to collaborate. So he was like, after the watch serious stuff, he's like, okay, I'll message her and see if she's interested. So we made a whole page. Gauri Khan invited us to her home. He mentioned to Manna, I met him a few times, yes. Yeah, right. So what happened? Yeah, actually, power of manifestation is what I'm trying to say. So when we were going, Gauri Khan said that these guys have 15-20 minutes. That meeting lasted for 1.5 hours. She gave me food to eat, ye coffee, ye pio, ye khao, but and like it was almost like she pitching to me. I hope this is not recorded in the show, but it was like, because I told her how it will benefit her to do a collaboration with me, right? So I did the ulta pitch of saying that how this will benefit, and she obviously agreed, and we said we'll do a whole plan and go to Paris and launch the collection in one of the shows and take Indian media there, to Suzanne with her and all of that, and that's how we sort of really launched the brand in India. Slowly all these Ambani, fortunately the Ambani, the Birlas, and all our customers, are for Jaipur Rugs today. But what we also did was we said we need to do unconventional marketing, right? So we don't, otherwise carpet to carpet, we're going to buy whatever. So we said, what are the challenges one that consumer has, and what are the things that a customer will never think about a carpet, and we can do that. You will think of us, right? And it reminds them. So one thing we said, anybody who thinks rugs should think of Jaipur Rugs, right? That is the thought process where I went with. I went to the top 3 magazines that existed in the country, and I said, I will give you ad for the next 3 years, every issue, but I don't want you to take any other competition. No other carpet tag should be featured in any magazine, and we should be the only dominant players and all. I think they understood because there was no other carpet brand anyway, so they said yes very easily. And obviously at very low rates because carpet industry was not. And I think we did a lot of these activities, through Gauri Khan. We hosted like a thing at her store, invited other celebrities. So today when I go meet random celebrities, I meet them all over the place, right? Through all of these people I'm a part of a family group that the Ambani family and the Piramid families are today. So on 4 rows that are shared up with Mr. Deba. And I think the secret sauce has been believing that it is possible. Because all of these people and all of these, today we run stores in London, Milan, Dubai, Singapore. My Milan store is the first year, probably going to be the first year when we were break even. But I had to believe that this will work, right? When we opened up the Dubai store, I said, okay, this needs to change. That was our second store, and I said, okay, we need to learn what we learned from Milan, and Dubai we need to go all out. So the cousin of the sheikh was there for us, and the launch of 3 stores. Gucci, Ferragamo, Saint Laurent, done dinners. Shopa offered their Dubai Mall store. They hosted the party in my store. So I think once you believe that this is possible, and when I meet a lot of young founders, they want to do a lot, but I think अंदर से positivity चाहिए कि होगा करना है. I think that's the biggest secret sauce I think.
So just manifest it, guys. But Yogesh, I wanted to ask, why start from India store? Why not start from any US store? Why did you launch the first store in Delhi? Knowing that Indians are not that rich, as you said, right? The US market or the global market would be able to pay a much better price.
One was that the conflict of interest was not there. India basically, तो भी यहाँ पे किसी को बेचो कुछ भी करो तो वो नहीं खास. And then when you slow down to learn the business, right? And the carpets are there, you can all the way time and all of that, and it's home. But also, I am a big believer of India. I feel that global brands are going to come out of India in the next 10-20 years. We will build some of the best and the greatest brands, and that is our aspiration of it. To take Jaipur, not to the 5-6 countries very great as brand, but to go to the next 150 countries.
Amazing. So Yogesh, the next question is, you know, as you said, you manifested it, but at the same time, we are all aiming for growth, right? And obviously there was pressure on you also, right? Your family must be asking you, 500 rupees, break-even to new right? So all that pressure is always there. So mostly what happens is, when you're building a business, you're chasing growth, there are some trade-offs to be made, right? And all of us end up making some of them, right? But I think what is true to any brand is the authenticity of the brand, right? And I think that is what Jaipur Rugs has really stood out for, the authenticity of the brand, right? How do you balance that? How do you not give in to that pressure, right? Especially coming with the family business background where they're not used to any loss-making business, I'm sure, right? And this is the first time they are actually investing in building a brand, right? Which maybe they don't appreciate the value of that brand in the long run, right? Because they can't see that converting into passion, right? So I'm sure there will be a lot of temptation कि जैसे आपने बोला कि सस्ता बेच लो, right? Because बिकेगा, because sales आएगा, and that validates the business, right? But you stuck on to it and said, no, we will not sell cheaper variants, right? How do you do that? How do you balance growth and authenticity? Because this has a long-term impact on the brand.
Absolutely, I think it's really, I always think that the consumer always comes first, right? So if I'm trying to build something that doesn't resonate with the consumer, then that कुछ डर लो कुछ नहीं होने वाला है. So for us, we always start with the consumer. I think a lot of times, we are thinking हम ये चाहते हैं, like we have thousands of artisans that work for a company, and we tell the artisans so we constantly again and again to the outer world. So when the outer world looks at us, they're always looking at artists, right? So if you look at artists first rank in India, one seeing Jaipur Rugs quite a few times. But
and maybe correct.
But I think a lot of times we forget the consumer. So when we constantly keep asking the customer को क्या चाहिए मेरे लिए, right? So when he's put it up affect, what are the emotions that you want or is looking for? या ऐसा मैं क्या करूँ जिससे वो घर में carpet लगाए तो उसको भी अलग emotion निकल के आता है, right? So when you start, so what we did was when we in the retail store, any consumer who would come, there was a marketing person standing, and the job of the marketing person was only and only to observe. And they were like, this phone से देखते कौन सी वेरी पहनी हुई, कौन सी शीट है, कौन सा ब्रांड स्टैंडर्ड है, हस्बैंड वाइफ आई है क्या, who's a decision maker. So we built that for 5-6 years constantly, that every consumer who was walking in the store, we were tracking. And then we were really seeing what are they buying. Are they buying? It is how important is price. Why do they change the decision of buying? Suppose we hear a lot of consumers who say my budget is not that, they end up going to 5 lakh rupee carpet. What happens in that time, that shift happens. Like I had a budget of one in my head, but I came and bought a 5 lakh carpet. And I think this is all about getting, retail is about retailing. So it's really about going in detail and understanding of consumers.
That's a good one. Retail is all about retail.
So, I think I'll give you an example. So I'm usually in the office weekend also Saturday, Sunday. So one of the Sundays the customer called me. And the guard picked up the phone, the customer का phone आया, sir, क्या reason का किधर to I'll take the call. So I talked to the consumer and this is very early on, I think 2018. She's like, I want your website, can you navigate? I'm like, yes, please sell to me. So it's like, I'm looking for a soft carpet. So can you recommend me one? Which is like, I've looked at these carpets. Which one is better? Which one is clubs? She was asking me all these questions, liking all these questions down. These were all things that the consumer wants on the website. It was like a MBA for that thing, because she told me exactly what I should be putting on her website. It will make it easier for her to shop, right? Just in the next few days, we integrated all of that and also, there's a main company has done something called Founders Vitality, right? It is what it talks about. It says that when a founder is young, you're connected to the consumer, you're connected to the producer, you're connected everywhere, and you're the chain that is connected the ends. And that is why the business grow very fast. And I think that that speed on how you react to consumers' need and what you understand from them, I think is probably one of the most important things that we need to be successful in retailing or D2C. Because there's a lot of competition, right? The noise is so much. I think most people get distracted by competition, right? So in our office, we always say we have no competition. And we don't look at competition. Because whenever you look at competition, you get distracted and you forget who you are. So for us, it is more important on what we are doing, what we want to build. and forget the world and keep doing that. Hopefully you deserve some car.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think this was the offline era, 2016 to maybe 19. Today, guys, we're sitting in the online era, right? I think the data access we can get is crazy, right? You don't need a physical person sitting in the store and tracking who's the customer, right? You can actually track everything online. So I think if you can use that data properly, I think that's very powerful. And that's why D2C becomes so strategy than the channel, right? So yeah, I think I agree completely. It's all about the customer. It's not about the channel, the competitor, all of that, right? We all focus a lot on that, but end of the day, it's about the customer. Because the customer is initiating, right? So that's amazing. So manifest it for sure and focus on your customer. That's the two learnings to learn. Yogesh, I would like to ask you, I'm sure any entrepreneurial journey has lots of ups and downs. But there are few moments, every journey has few moments, which is, either a make or a break, okay? Or this is one of the large moments where, where you feel that, hey, this is something which could kind of destroy the brand, right? Or the business, right? So have you gone through any such cycle, and this would be open to talking about that, or any learnings from that, because we are all looking at Jaipur Rugs today as a success story. But if you share some part of the journey where you think it was very challenging and you were still able to overcome it, that will actually give very real inspiration to people that it's very normal and this is what it takes. So any such moment in your journey where you felt, hey, this is not going to happen, and then something worked out
All the time.
all the time?
I think that's a founder's journey, right? I mean, you're never sure of what is happening.
Which one would be the biggest one in that?
So actually, early on, in 2008, there was a huge slowdown, right? As a dash and all the messages. And I just joined, and we were doing extremely well. We were going to the world. And the bank had convinced me to do forex derivative deals. So our profit was 2-3 crores. And we made a loss of about 20 crores in the forex derivative deals. The company was almost bankrupt. We had no money left to pay salaries. I remember Diwali of 2009 or 10. I used to buy a gold coin for Mama every Diwali. And we didn't have that commitment to just buy that gold coin. So I've seen investing time difference in my last 18-19 years of being more business. But I feel that in today's world, every 3 to 5 years you have to reinvent yourself, because something is going to go wrong, or something is not going to go right, or the world is evolving so fast that if you don't change, somebody else will come and will take over the business or whatever, or what you're doing. So, I think I would say that I think we were almost shut down, but we were at a point where the bank had told the accountant's entity, magically we got a large order and we survived, and we did everything to make the business not shut down. But I think those things are always there. I mean, 2016 or 16 to 19 offer of the second dollar retail, the retail was doing the first retail for us. In the first year, lost again. After that, we got in loss. So I am not a big believer of putting in a lot of money to be successful. We can self-fund completely. They entire become me.
Yeah, I think that's something which I forgot to highlight. Yes, Jaipur has to do stuff, right? So there's no external funding. I think a lot of us funding glamorize fundraising and funding and all of that, right? And it's almost like we're not funding the business funding is right, but that's not true, right? I mean, this is an example of almost 1,000 crore rupees now, right? More than 1,000 crore business which is bootstrapped from retail, right? And built out of Jaipur, right? Right. Yeah. Great. So, Yogesh, something now very personal as a founder, right? So, Jaipur Rugs as business and you as the entrepreneur millennial, right? What are the most important fundamentals you think for an entrepreneur within the brand in this whole journey? How do you see it as an entrepreneur? What are the skills required, or what are the what are the learnings can you as an entrepreneur by building this out?
So, I think there are different terms to use, but understanding the core of the business is very important, right? So, I think today everybody wants to build a brand, and as easy it is, as difficult it is, I always say to build a brand, right? Today you'll see a brand in 2 years or 5 years, it's like going like rockets. On the other hand, I would say industry you have 100 of that turnaround are doing very well. Now, what was in this one brand? Like a lot of people tell me, like in the corporate world, nobody really cared about the brand. You're the first one who really builds the brand and terms. Made carpets cool. I always feel, again, the consumer perspective here. And one word we use in the office quite a bit is the cool quotient. So how cool your real brand is, and it's not about how you think about your brand, but how your consumer is thinking about your campaign. Are you doing something that the consumer looks at it and is like, wow, what the business team? Is it something that will recommend? So our brand, the reason we didn't want to pump hundreds of crores to build a brand was because our consumers became our marketing advocates and exactly. So if you look at, this is true for any good brand. So if you talk about Seekers, Comment, you talk about any good brand, you would have not heard because they were digitally marketing and advertising. You heard of them because your friend or your group or your peer told you about them. So, what are the reasons you give somebody to talk about your brand, right? And why would they talk about you? If you understand that, and if you crack that code, you will save hundreds of crores in marketing, and your consumers or your peers or whatever will build your brand. So that's something that, and I think a lot of founders today are focusing on building businesses and not brands, and then saying they're trying to build a brand. So there's a big differentiator, I think, between a brand and a business. Business is कोई भी कर सकता है, धंधा तो धंधा बोलता है, तो there's a धंधा and there's a brand. So धंधा business is very easy because you're trading, you're buying, you're manufacturing, you're selling. But you truly have to build a brand, and for it to survive long term and for it to really be valued, I think you really have to sort of focus on seeing what is the differentiator and why your consumers will talk about you. And I think if you build that, so consumers are very loyal and they are giving people who will tell you your brand before you go.
Wow.
So I think that's a good statement, right? I think we are all here building D2C brands, and I think there's a big difference between building a brand and building a business, right? A brand is something which basically outlasts just the business, right? And that's why it's so tough because it is a long-term gestation business. It compounds, and I think it requires a lot more vision and patience, and that's why you see so many few brands around successful. There's so many good businesses around, right? So brand and business are very different. Completely. With you on that. Yogesh, the last question from my end before we open it up for the audience. Especially because this is the Bharat Edition, and the reason we are in Jaipur, and not just Jaipur, we are doing Chandigarh, we are doing Chennai, Hyderabad, Pune, Ahmedabad, where we get a novel's class, right? Because we want to encourage more founders from these cities to build from India and build for the world. But because you are actually built from a city like Jaipur, and you're not sitting in Delhi or Bangalore, right? What is your advice for founders building from Jaipur or any tier 2 city and having the aspiration to build a global brand? How do they actually do it? What are the ways for them to navigate challenges around it? Because they might not have the same kind of access or the same kind of resources or the capital, or whatever you call it, right? Traditionally, that has always been a barrier, right? Although examples like yours actually encourage people to do that, but how do they actually do that? Do they shift to Delhi Bombay to build it? Or do they remain Jaipur and build from Jaipur, and in that case, how do they actually get a global brand out there?
So I think this question, so I had a fund called Warm Up Ventures, and my partner, we were on a panel discussion together, and he answered it very uniquely. They said that tier 2, tier 3 is amazing to build, to take the journey from 0 to 1. But from that 1 to 10, I think you need a balance. I agree with this in the part. I feel that everything has an advantage and disadvantage. I am a person who's always looking at only advantage. So I always feel the advantage is that it's not big advantage, so the disadvantage is put right? So basically in Jaipur, we had a huge challenge of getting this talent, right? So from there, I don't know if you've seen our campaign, but we've done like a tennis campaign, playing on a tennis court, right? So we playing on tennis court. So we did World Cup on our playing on tennis court, and we got Olympic for the both the English from the World Cup team to I encourage to go on Instagram and start a campaign. The advantage is that the resources here are low cost, right? I mean, so compared to Bombay, Delhi, you get much better resources, but attracting national talent was difficult. So we said we need to do something that we sort of, what is the advantage we play on that? We said, okay, here housing costs are zero, but then we realized that looking at traffic is less, education quality is very high. Air quality is very good compared to university. So whenever we start to pitch some of these senior people, we always say that if you want a better life for it, you'll pick a wife, your family, you should move in Jaipur. You'll get a better home, will, and I can't tell you, we kept doing this and the impact it has on people. So today, out of the 450 people in our headquarters, almost 200, 250 are not from Jaipur, they're from outside. And I think sometimes, as I said, you need to play on your strengths to be able to tell them, but you can lead the connection with the bigger city, right? So, like today I travel to Delhi, Mumbai at least once a month, or that sometimes mopping most often, because that's where your business planning, your talk, people in the country are sitting, and you want to be connected to that world and not completely disconnected. So today I think traveling is very key. It's not very efficient. There's so many events and it's become so easy to meet people. If you just attend the right events and you want to know it. But I think as a founder, just going out there, meeting people, constantly telling your story, I think there's a lot of good. So today, if you ask me, I would think an ideal word, have a president board, like have a guest on board, absolutely, like several between the two towns.
Like you could have a backend in Jaipur, you could have some marketing arm and do something like that.
Yes, or have a sales on board, spend some time in the tier city, but also spend the other time because from a strategy perspective, I think Jaipur is much calmer. You can do lots more. There's less distraction. When I'm a strategy person, I like to sit and draw on my all the walls and write things out. But when you have to connect to the external world, you have to meet the celebrity, you have to meet the richest of the country, then you have to go out because they're not still talking about what is as of.
I think lesser distraction is something very interesting you mentioned. And I think that's the biggest USP for founders building out of fear when there was peace. And because of platforms like D2C Insider, it's only a good platform, right? I feel that Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore is oversaturated. Sometimes it feels like founder danda ka banayega, agar networking karta rahega, right? There's so many events happening, so many investors, VCs, all of them, right? So there's a lot of distraction. And when you're sitting out of a clear city, it's a blessing in disguise, right? Because you can only charge once in a month, like you said, right? Or twice in a month. You can't be there every day, right? And I think Minimalist is another example, guys, from Jaipur. One of the successful D2C brands, the biggest is, right? And when I speak to Mohit and Rahul, they say, यार हम इसलिए कर पाएंगे कि हम जयपुर में बैठे थे, अगर हम बैंगलोर में तकलीफ होते हैं तो हम कभी नहीं कर पाते क्योंकि इतना फोमो है, अरे तो इन्फ्लुएंसर मार्केटिंग नहीं कर रहे, ये नहीं कर रहे, वो नहीं कर रहे, no, so I think when you're sitting in a silo, you do what you believe it to be, and that FOMO is not there. So I think that's the biggest advantage because I think there's a lot of Me Too's out there, right? But if you want to build something unique, then you have to build it your way. And I think cost is another great advantage. I think today in Bombay or Bangalore, I think the talent cost is very high. And not just cost, but the loyalty cost. Right? I think as founders, we all know how difficult it is to build teams and retain teams, right? So I think that's a blessing. I mean, in a city like Jaipur, where you can get a lot of loyal talent. Because maybe for them also there's not more opportunities, right? So that way they also understand that this is a long-term commitment and they also want to do well, right? Not just jump ships, right? Like in Delhi today, if you're hiring, it's very difficult to get a resume which is like the person has worked for at least 1 year in one organization. Right? If you see a 5-year experience, it takes 5 organizations. Right? I think the biggest downside is obviously exposure in terms of PCs, for example. But I think that is also changing. Guys, Yogesh also has a partner in a venture firm called Warm-Up Ventures, right? So it's I think one of the first few VCs out of Rajasthan, right? So that is also happening. So I think if the VCs are coming to your town, there's no reason for you to go to their town, right? So I think the plans are changing and for the good. But I do strongly believe that the source of earning advantage is with the tier 2, tier 3 towns because that's where our local craftsmanship and all of that is there. See? And if you guys can actually take that and build a global brand using obviously Shopify and all of that, right? I think that's very much possible today, right? So that's where you will see a lot of interesting dishes come up and a lot of interesting brands. Jaipur is one example of it. I think India can produce 2,000, maybe 2,000, 3,000 sales more rank in different categories. So that's the opportunity, guys. So that's it from my end, guys. I would like to open it up to all of you. So if you have any questions, if you'd like to ask anything to Yogesh, please raise your hand. Please go ahead. You can take a mic. Just briefly introduce yourself and ask questions.
Hi Yogesh, my name is Harsh. First of all, congratulations for building such a global brand from Jaipur.
Thank you.
I mean, it's a family business. It started from 1930, I guess. So, अगर जयपुर आज start करते आप तो क्या डिफरेंट करते हैं? आई मीन उस समय का प्रेशर होता होगा, काफ़ी सारी चीज़ें सेट है, बट अगर आज स्टार्ट करते हैं तो फास्टर ग्रोथ के लिए क्या डिफरेंट करते हैं?
That's a very good one to answer also. I think there are two parts to this. I mean, see, one is when I also started, when I joined this, we never thought it would be the size we are today. Right? 2019, we got an offer to buy the company at 1,000 crores. And that time, our numbers were very large. It was like a couple of buy this way, so much money to buy the company out. Today, obviously, I have multiplied it roughly. But, I mean, you have to go through that journey. तो मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि that overnight journey of people getting very stressful very much. Because you have to be one in life, I don't know, really billion to able to do that. Starting Jaipur Rugs today, I would probably say that I would tell myself to have a lot more confidence to go out there. People connect with people who have confidence, who stand for something, who represent something. And there's very few people out there. The world is in a very transactional. First, you have to do something which is more, which is coming truly from your heart and which is done authentically. I think people connect with it very quickly. And I think it took me a little time to understand that. So I think it was 10 साल हमको लगे यहाँ पर 200 करोड़ का retail में कुछ बड़ी कहते हैं. Maybe if I did it today, maybe you would do it, I don't know, 3-5 years or whatever. So it can be cut down.
एक और क्वेश्चन है, वेबसाइट में लाख 1.5 लाख 1 लाख का प्रोडक्ट लिस्टेड है, ऑर्डर्स आते हैं frequently, prepaid order या anything like.
Well, on the website, the most expensive single piece we sold is for 25 lakhs. And last month it was online, offline. The business on the chat and it's connected to the team. It's bought a carpet for 42 lakhs. This consumer who doesn't know around India. No, this was 18 India में 10-20 lakhs से भी तो आपने बहुत बेचा है ऑनलाइन लेके.
Single order 10-20 lakhs का
single piece order single orders for about 10 lakhs in here in the news. We in fact offline just last week sold a carpet which is over 1 crore single piece. So I thought the power of online is crazy, and I think we just have to believe. A lot of my people always telling me expensive वाले carpets के prices are average. मैंने कहा पता कैसे पड़ेगा तो देखेंगे ना. Right? So what one strategy we always use is if you go to our email for group that design idea or piece we do, you'll always see one carpet is looking super expensive. So last year also when we did, there was a carpet was 1.1 crores. This time we made a carpet worth 95 lakhs. And every other carpet is 10 lakhs, 5 lakhs, 4 lakhs. So क्या होगा जैसे आप बोलते हैं 1 करोड़ का carpet है तो 4 लाख बहुत सस्ता लगता है. Otherwise if you say 4 लाख का carpet है तो suddenly a lot of people are going to 4 लाख के carpet का क्या करोगे? बट मैं बोलता हूँ कि 1 करोड़ का कार्पेट अगर दिखाता हूँ 4 लाख का तो सडनली इन दैट रियलिस्टिकली इट बिकम्स अ लॉट अफोर्डेबल इफ द कंज्यूमर्स हेड.
कैन वी से कि वेबसाइट में प्रोडक्ट होना चाहिए? आई मीन बहुत सारे फाउंडर्स आजकल लिस्ट ही नहीं करते, ये सोचते कि कौन देगा 10,000 20,000 50,000. तो आर यू सेइंग कि लिस्ट करो, बाकी कस्टमर के ऊपर फोटो की ब्रांडिंग के ऊपर.
आई एम अ बिग बिलीवर ऑफ दैट. आई डोंट नो if I'm right or wrong, but I always say customer comes first and customer is the king. And the more transparent you are with the consumer, the better the chances of them trusting your line from you are, right? So हमने when we started here also, one thing that I'd like to mention is we said हम लोग इंडिया में बेच रहे हैं बट हमारे सर्विसेज अमेरिका में बेच रहे हैं, राइट? दैट कंज्यूमर ने खरीद लिया, इससे अगर इसमें इसको रिटर्न करना तो रिटर्न करते हैं. 2 साल का वारंटी है, स्टेट हो गया विल हेल्प यू टू क्लीन, विल हेल्प यू टू मेंटेन, राइट? इट्स नॉट लाइक यू नीड अ सेल अपनी प्लान में. हम लोग आपके घर पे आके आपको काफी दिखाई देंगे. So, it was really gone very deep into how we can value add the consumer side, right? And आप online डालते हो तो people see 1 करोड़ का काफी 50 लाख का काफी क्यों 10 लाख खरीद लिया तो people करते हैं. That's my belief.
Thank you so much.
Hi, Yogesh. My name is Yogesh, and as if you have as a part of Jaipur Rugs, so I met your father and heard your story. So I heard the line you say that we don't sell carpet, we sell stories of your craftsmen. So I just want to highlight on that. How you build that, and which I think more sales strategy or like there is what is all it.
Yes, so I think it is. There is a beautiful book. It's called Start with Why. Start with why. It's by Simon Sinek. तो वो ये बोलता है कि why do some brands win over other brands, right? Because you see that most brands are talking about ये Samsung बोलता है कि ये इतना हेल्दी है, ये Apple कभी बोलता है मेरा प्रोसेसर ये वो है, and then you see a dirty Samsung phone, but you never see a dirty Apple phone. And what is that they're trying to tell in the same time? And for us, what we realized that the uniqueness we had in our business was that we go to directly to the artisans, and we have 40,000 artisans that we liquid goods. So हमने कहा कि ऐसा हम हमारे बिजनेस की क्या बोल सकते हैं जो मतलब कोई कॉम्पिटिशन नहीं बोल सकता है. And that was about the artisans, that was about the change that we bring in their lives, right? The impact that the business has. And that's the story we try to tell out there, right? So obviously product, service, everything that's absolutely world class. But when we try to tell this story,
The best part is the writing. Writing so
almost came to standstill. So, but yeah, I mean, who wanted to Jara. Fortunately, we said we don't want to do shortcuts, you know, and we're hoping that a lot of the fund of the tariffs, you know, which the food has always come. So, but उसका कोई direct answer नहीं था, to be honest.
To your customers, what would the message? They must, to your customers, you must make some communication regarding your brand presence.
Yeah, obviously we have to give discounts and we have to do a lot of things to see what we could do to continue the business. So as a business model, you know, we do about 800 crores in US. Only America we do 800 crores. So US is the most significant market for us, and my two of my sisters and my brother they are in the business. So yeah, it's definitely been painful over the last year. But we were always quite sure that this is temporary. हमने कहा कि जितने टाइम चल रहा है चलो कब तक क्या improve कर सकते हो करना. Obviously whenever there is difficult times, that is the time when you do that inside the core and the deep part of the business and see what can you do, what can you build ahead of it. So last 1 year we really been focusing on very different parts of the business and that are now already starting to yield very good results. I'm not very confident कि 5-7 में 10 साल तक मैं डालना होता है 2012 में ये भी करोड़ में मिलने वाला है. Unfortunately ऐसा बहुत कम हुआ. I was lucky that I had some startup which was 60 times, 100 times, 50 times, 40 times. But a lot of them went bad, right? Like, so it's not the best way, but forget all the money. I learned so much from the startup founders, you know, because it's a community that I think I can learn is that enough. So that is why I'm always actually, you know, always around startups and founders and I'm usually keep having connections with some good people in the country through the startups. And I always teach me one day when we started with retail, the niche part of the business. I said I'm not going to talk about the thing that you see growth. I said I want to talk in excess. I want to talk the startup line in my office. And that was the decision to successful that. So we went from like 1 crore to 1.5 to our growth rate was almost 70-80% in the retail business. It's because I would want to take a lease in the business. Because उससे जो 10% के लिए 20% बहुत बड़ी ग्रोथ होती है बहुत करें थी. So I think that part what is always for being in and I'm always I learned more from startups and I you know share practices.
I have a question. Hi, Yogesh, this is Chaudhary from Markers. Earlier you said that while you entered into a D2C business to change the mindset of consumers, like in domestic market, कि वहाँ पे ड्रग्स को ब्लेंड करना इंडियन मार्केट के अंदर कंज्यूमर्स के लिए इतना डस्ट है एंड केमिक्स है. तो हाँ, what challenge जो आपने वहाँ फेस करा and how that manufacturers consumers यहाँ shifted first and secondly how will you execute the launch stage how to grow करा. What is the biggest challenge and how we can
Started spinal to diamond. So when they were making that to mine where the diamonds on sulfide, I think this is about 50-70 years ago. And I love doing case studies. So दूसरा case study था कि मैंने पैकिंग कराना शुरू किया तो कोई डायमंड खरीदना नहीं चाहता था. So उन्होंने सोचा कि हम ऐसा क्या करें तो category range का काम था, right? And so essentially diamond is सबसे hard material. So what can you do right away is a sign of permanence. तो तब उन्होंने बोला कि अभी ड्रिंक्स सारे कूल होती है तो उन्होंने बोला कि डायमंड को रिंग में लगाना शुरू करो क्योंकि इस सेम टाइप से स्नैरिंग इज ओनली कॉमन टाइप ऑफ ऑफिस अनेक सारे सेम डायमंड का फॉरएवर दैट गिव्स यू सेम वन फॉरएवर इन दैट एरिया दैट इज मार्केटिंग इंडस्ट्री. when I started it, I said, after I want to explore whatever. So what will it do? Which gives the target cool enough for somebody to have the association with Bollywood, selling the artisan studios and coming up with the manufacturing things doing. How can we make the organization things in your home? Right? That was the express. So take me work on a lot of multiple fronts. We constantly kept hammering this thing again and again. Around, I think sometimes we do something and we like this isn't but if you believe in something and you keep hammering it over years, then you really see as the consumer and other people start saying this is buying. I'll give you an example. I was in Mr. Bilda's on the ground. When this dominant friend I was in he's like, he's going to come, I used to buy Yogesh Chaudhary, amazing carpet company called Jaipur Rugs. As soon as he said Jaipur Rugs and all that, this girl was like 18, 19, 20 years old. I was like, oh my god, very Devi ka carpet hai. She took the name of my artisan that she has a carpet of this in her room and this was in her room and this was realized when they were speaking at me, I was like, what is happening, right? So that's, I will keep hammering and you make suddenly a stately 20-year-old girl who would otherwise never talk about the carpets, right? Knows who was the artist who made that carpet, she can sell it to her friends. So how do you add that new portion, right? To anything that can do, and that was also really kind of not one match. I don't want to take too much time, but there's a lot of it. हमने बोला शेप चेंज कर दो, कार्पेट को दीवार पे लगाओ, उसका कुछ पॉट चीज बना दो, फ्लैट टी कार्पेट्स एंड मेन फर्नीचर, very dynamic. Just to sort of start making it very
Currently, you did go and target the niche audience in India. So that's what Santa asked me with that. I know like one of the first approach I asked me the India में आप launch कर रहे थे. So mindset change करना consumers still in India is very very difficult because I am used to this thing so I know. तो आपने जब बोला कि आपने niche जो बड़े बड़े clients हैं, बड़े बड़े customers हैं, टाटा करता हूँ, वो आपने starting तो नहीं उनको approach किया. During that time, how to survive in the market?
We started from zero, so we didn't have like a low side. It was only that we could grow. So and I always think it's consumer mindset, but it's not, it was not changing the mindset as much as saying that make something new that you want to take it. My really, it was not, the idea was not the Jaipur was very low, but the idea was can I do something that is inspired, and we started, I just quickly talk about it, recently we started an initiative called influencing the influencers, right? Because like today, these rich who are the influencers that they look at, they talk to. Right? So Bollywood was one influencer, we said okay, come on, Masu Mina Wala, and this and we made a list of 150 influencers and we reached out to every single one of them. And हमने कहा कि आप देखिए वहाँ से शो से आगे हमने कहा वो शो में जाएंगे so that we can say hi. So like Mr. Bilal was like saying I'm on this board, but if I tell you the story of how I met him, so we were at the exhibition and we passed from there. So I told my team, I said, Mr. Bilal, you should have stopped him. If you see somebody like me, please stop him and please introduce them to me. तो वो वापस जा रहे होंगे तो मैं गाय सामने भी खड़े हो गए बोले सर प्लीज मैं प्लीज यहाँ पे वाला स्पॉट्स नहीं करता आई टॉक टू 5 minutes 7 minutes like are you looking for an investment and I said I'm not looking for an investment is like काफी कितने का मैंने कहा this is not for sale right and suddenly like क्या हो रहा है मतलब दूसरा किसी पैसा नहीं चाहिए काफी फ्री देता करना मुझे so whatever so this right strategy obviously on campus activity but that's how we said कि चलो मेरा assistant I want the capital requirement first time if I'm going to go for I went I did my research on this Jaipur is connected to the Buddha company and I realized that if I have a source which is coming from the Dasan so when I met him the first 2 minutes I said कि मैं आपसे कारण होगा आपके कारण बैठा and suddenly it's okay like मैंने जिस तो ऐसा कि मैं खरीदता हूँ और इसकी एक चैलेंज है जिसको Buddha के साथ और इनफैक्ट मेरा कृष्णा के पास में शो में वो कॉरिडोर था वहाँ पे आना हमारा बहुत कोल्ड ऐसे कि विषय पड़ा ताकि तो बहुत कोल्ड and I know I'm allergic to topics, so I don't want to put a topic. I just put it on the wall. So then I'm allergic to cold, right? But I noticed the topic. और देखो फिक्स ही पड़ गया अभी लगाने के लिए भाई वो दिखती है सारा गूगल सर्च topic was a 24 lakh order and it was on surprise if we use carpet as wallpaper there considerable change so I'm saying that Today, obviously, I set out more or less complete board, started to build on fashion, to build on, fashion details, Darishtarin, Anantaran, Sabha. But people things, it's not like in manifested, but you don't have to believe that something will happen at the right place at the right time. You keep trying. I mean, out of 100 times, 99 times, nothing happens, right? I mean, but it's that one time that something happens, it is for all of that other lifetime.
But we have to move forward. But Yogesh, I'm going to be here for some time. So you can catch Yogesh and have a wonderful chat. Really sorry about that. But thanks a lot, Yogesh. I think this was a wonderful session, and I hope all of you found it very productive. And I hope it inspires all of us to go for larger ambitions and manifest it. Before I will let you go, Yogesh, would love for you to experience the very best. So, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Abhishek.